Welcome to the Maximum Mom podcast. I am so excited today. First, we never do a podcast this early in the morning, which like totally makes me happy because I am such a morning girl.
So you're out west. I forgot about that. I'm over here in Tampa, so it's like lunchtime almost.
Yeah. When I saw it on my calendar, I was like, "Ooh, how fun! We get to do this in the morning." Well, today I am so excited to have Christine Diorio. And do you love the name? She explained it to me. It's Oreo with a D in front. So I love that. Thanks, Christine, for joining me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. So thank you for having me. And I was just telling you before we started that I'm a fangirl of Elise Buie. I have kind of modeled a lot of what I've done after what you've done. We have a lot of the same shared values with family law, especially and based on what I've seen in different things you've done. And so I'm like really excited to be here and get to talk to you.
Oh, well, and I am so excited. I literally feel like I could talk to you for a day. I mean, I don't know that anyone else would want to listen. You and we should plan for that sometime.
I think that's a great idea.
Because I mean, your story is amazing. And I don't want to tell your story. I actually want you to tell your story. I mean, first, I'll just let people know that you're an attorney in Tampa. You live with a blended family. You have some real interesting interests, like you love photography, all that self-empowerment things, and writing and speaking about substance abuse as they relate to the law. So I would love for you to just walk us through your story, because it is one of resilience and grit like none other.
It is. And it's hard to tell it in a good, cohesive way. So bear with me because it's a lot. But yes, I am a family law attorney, Tampa, Florida, primarily family law. We have opened an estate planning division this year. That's going really well. And I know you do that too. So, and I still do some criminal, very picky and choosy. But my background before I opened my own law firm was all criminal. So I always tell people, like, I need a few criminals hanging around to kind of keep myself sane, because family law is, it's a whole thing. So yeah, I mean, I think from my legal career is probably the easiest way to kind of get into everything that happened. So I went to Florida State for law school, and during law school, I had 2 children. I was married. So I did the whole pregnancy thing. I took the bar exam like 8 months pregnant. But anyway, my family was very prominent in the legal community in Gainesville, Florida. That's where I grew up.
Oh.
So my stepfather was a county judge, and my mom was the chief deputy clerk of the court. She retired after 48 years there. Wow. So she ran the courthouse. So of course, I was able to get a job at the state attorney's office after law school because everybody knew my family. And about a year in, no, it was 3 years in. So about 3 years into being a state attorney, I had just gotten promoted to felony. Unfortunately, I had started going through a divorce. So I had 2 small children, going through divorce, and I had struggled with substance abuse before. And in fact, I had stopped drinking before I went to law school, because I knew it's kind of like, I can't do that. So I had actually sobered up. My husband at the time was also an alcoholic who continued to drink. So I had 2 small children, law school, become a prosecutor. Then my marriage starts to fall apart. And unfortunately, I started drinking again during my divorce, which I'm sure a lot of people going through divorce can understand. And the sad thing was, after my divorce, which was very bad, it was not amicable. Of course, I wanted it so badly to be, but he wasn't there at the time. It was so much stress. I got promoted to felony, and I think it was literally like 3 weeks later, I was leaving a work Christmas party with other prosecutors. It was a Christmas party with a bunch of lawyers. Everybody was drinking.
Yep.
But I had too much to drink, and I got arrested for DUI. And being a prosecutor was a big deal. Oh, yeah. So I woke up in jail the next morning, and I had to go do first appearance in front of the judge I had just practiced with for like the last year. She was in tears during my first appearance. I was in tears. It was to say it was like traumatizing, devastating, the worst mugshot you've ever seen, because I was drunk, and I don't play around with that. I shouldn't have been driving. Luckily my children that night were with their father, nothing like that, but still I had to resign, and the state attorney was a dear family friend and he was devastated. I just put everybody in such a bad position. It was awful, awful. But I had been one of the prosecutors that the public defender's office liked. I really never was meant to be a prosecutor. So that's number one. But the public defender at the time called me, or actually called my mom and said, "We love Christine. Would she be interested in coming over here?" And I had 2 small children to support. So less than a month later, I walked back into the courtroom and there was snickers and sneers and things said, and, but then of course there were also some incredible moments with some of the most gracious human beings. To this day, I hold on to. Many of them are now judges in Gainesville, but they were so kind to me. And that judge that I had practiced in front of, she actually opened her chambers to me and was like, "Look, if you need a break and you're having a bad day, you use my chambers, you come in here, decompress, whatever." So many people were kind to me. So then I went and did 5 more years as a public defender. And I worked, it was so rewarding. I worked with and my favorite cases obviously were other moms with addiction.
Right.
And I just did some amazing work. But the flip side to the public defender life is, you're not getting paid that much. And the higher up you get, they reward you with the worst cases. So you're dealing with attempted murder and pedophilia and all this. And I was just so burnt out. So while all that's happening, my ex-husband and I remained in this really contentious space. We had a modification. We had a relocation. I mean, it was like we were in court for 5 years and always like this. But I did meet a wonderful man during this time, and I got married, but his job was in Tampa. And so when we got pregnant, we had to do a relo.
Right.
And we ended up bringing everybody down to Tampa. So even my ex-husband came with us. So we all came down here to Tampa after the relo. And I was on maternity leave for a while. And I should say, because I didn't say before, I never have had another drink. So the moment I woke up in jail, as devastating as it was actually kind of a relief, because I had been trying to pass as a functioning alcoholic. And, wake up in jail as a prosecutor, pretty much can't drink. So I never drank again, though. That was it for me. Like, it was a moment of surrender and a very spiritual moment for me that I walked away. I spent 3 solid years in therapy. I did not go the route of AA. I had done AA in the past, but I needed some heavy duty therapy, because I think the source kind of my drinking, unfortunately, my brother passed away when I was 23. He was 21 and he died of a drug overdose. And my mom found him, and he was not a drug abuser. He was it was like Oxycontin. This was 2001 when it first came. Didn't realize how dangerous you see it now with the fentanyl, kind of the same thing. Like, people didn't realize how dangerous it was. Devastating. So I had to do some pretty heavy duty work around on that. But to do the relocation, and the other great news is my ex-husband sobered up the same time I did.
Oh my God.
Craziest thing, right? And he's still sober today too. So we both are 13 years sober. And it's so funny, like, we just couldn't do it married, but we did it apart. And then when we moved to Tampa, I made the deal with him because I had majority time sharing, because I got divorced right before we moved into the more 50-50 world that we live in today. But anyway, by the time we moved to Tampa, I agreed to give him 50-50. And that's what let him go ahead and agree to Tampa. And it was like a magic bullet. Like, we still have our moments, I would say. It's not my best friend, We don't go on vacations together. I'm not one of those. I mean, God bless the couples that can continue to do that. I did not know. But we have a beautiful co-parenting relationship.
That's
And when you
amazing.
talk to my kids, the older two, they're 18 and 16 now, they don't know that me and their dad were fighting like that
Right.
when they were little, because they were 1 and 3 when we split up. So
That's
I've been like living and breathing this whole life, right? With blended family. I had another daughter, which blended us so beautiful. My husband's like the most amazing stepdad. I had this great co-parenting relationship. I was home on maternity leave, taking a break when we moved to Tampa from the law. I was burnt out. And when COVID, and it was kind of like, okay, I got to go back to work, because I had opened a photography business for a little while and done that while I was on maternity leave. But when you have teenagers,
Oh yeah.
college, it's like, I got this law degree, student loans. I kind of need to go back to work. So I was like, well, what am I going to do? I can't go be a public defender again. I knew I really didn't want to do jury trial work anymore, because I did so many jury trials.
Right.
So I said, you know what? I'll do family law. I went through all of what I went through. I feel like I can really share some experience, strength, and hope with my clients. I really love that about being an attorney, the counselor side of it.
Totally.
But it was naive. So I was like, family law, it can't be harder than criminal law. Oh my gosh. That's like grabbing the tiger by his tail, like, oh, this is a whole thing. Like, it's robust and it is complex. And so the first thing I did was I found an amazing mentor, Nancy Brodsky. She has Brodsky and Jacobs as her law firm in Fort Lauderdale. And I met with her every week for a long time, because I was so overwhelmed. I was like, wow, but I opened right in the middle of COVID. So add something else to it. And, and didn't know anybody here. So that was the other thing, was all of my prior work was Gainesville. My family knew me. I had a little bit of a name for myself.
Totally.
Nobody in Tampa cares. So I had to start from scratch down here. And so I have built this virtual law firm. And now we have a team of 6. We opened in COVID. We've got a team of 6. We're fully virtual. We do have an office space. But I don't know. I know I'm talking your ear off. I don't know if you want me to keep going or do you?
Oh, your story just boggles my mind. You have gone through so much. I just first want to tell you, kudos to you for just the whole thing, stopping drinking. Really coming to that place. That is amazing. And wow, your strength of character to be able to deal with that. And just so many people think of all the people pleasing, and we all worry about what people think. You going back into the public defender's office and dealing with you know how people are, the yibber yabber, but being able to literally find the good in those people that are supporting you. I can only imagine how many people can relate, because how many of us have driven with too much to drink? Every single one of us, at least once in our lives, probably. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's like, by the grace of God, go I,
Absolutely. And it's just, I really just think it is amazing. I love, though, that you turned it into now being able to start this practice in family law and bring that to the forefront. Your children are so lucky to have you as a mom, have their stepdad and their dad who got sober. That is some powerful work for them to know about.
It's crazy, right? And we're like a good team. We just went to Easter service, a couple weeks ago, and my ex-husband and my husband were sitting next to each other in the pew, and it's just like, we get together. We, like I said, we're not all best friends, but we really do play nice, and we always put the kids first.
Right.
And so that putting our own things on the side and really focusing on their needs, they have benefited from that. And it wasn't like that in the beginning. And so that's one of the things that I really try to help my clients see. that even in the beginning, if it's really contentious, there's still always hope.
Always.
You know, each part of your divorce is a season, and
Yes.
there is another side of it. So one of the things I've been doing is trying to educate my clients through the practice of, their cases. And, I just had a conversation with a client last week who was frustrated with how slow it was going. And, why isn't he having to do this? Why doesn't he have to do that? Well, there are more aggressive, tactics we can take right now. But what is going to happen after that? Right? Are you going to get the desired result? No, because the court here still makes you go to mediation first before you can get anything heard by a judge. So if you go and just file a bunch of stuff to show him who's boss, it's still not going to anything's not going to actually change, except that now he's going to be even more dug in and more
angry
and more ready to fight. And you're trying to raise 4 kids with this guy. This will end, and I always tell them, nothing in this process should become so nasty that it's impossible for you to co-parent when it's over.
Exactly.
That is, and the family law system's broken because, and I know there's a movement where we're working towards more, we are getting slow incremental changes, but at least in Tampa and Florida, it's still very adversarial, and that's still the traditional route. And, I tell them all the time, like, it's good for me. My bottom line's great if we're going to litigate every issue, but it is not good for your kids. It's not good for your own peace of mind. And so I really do try, some cases they just get nasty. There's just no amount of, you can say it, you need 2 people to be willing to try to be decent. But I don't know. That was my biggest calling. I felt was just that, a lot of people are like, well, you were always nice with your ex. No, I wasn't. Like, we really fought over those kids a lot. And it was awful living like that. And I can really see those 2 parts of my life. And I'm like, I should have given in sooner. I would have saved myself, decide what really matters.
Right. Well, and it is, I get along with my ex now in a completely different way than I did when we first split. It was sending nasty emails, those clickety clackety emails that everyone in the house can tell you're angry. And, it was awful. Whereas now it's completely different and has been for several years. But that takes a lot of, I think, self-actualization, and some real work internally to be able to let go of many things. Yes, could I write down thing after thing after thing that he has done? From just a fiscal, the amount of money I am owed is unbelievable. But I literally had to, at some point, just say, I am going to let go of all that. Like, I am not going down this road. I am going to earn circles around this guy, and I am not going to care that he owes me all this money. And it just.
Amen. That's what same exact thing with me. I just wasn't worth it, and I have well-meaning family members, oh, why did you, well, you let him get away with everything, but what was really important wasn't the money, it was my peace. And there's no price that you can put on my peace, and so I finally gave that up. Yeah. And that's why I try to tell my clients all the time, like, you can make more money.
Yep.
Going to war over an alimony payment because you feel entitled to it and they really don't want to pay it. Is that really worth dragging your family when they can get out of paying it?
Exactly.
And they don't even, there's so many games they can play with it. So it's like, let's just focus on getting you some solid child support, maybe a lump sum on your alimony. Can't be modified in Florida after it's lump sum, some things like to keep things moving along. But I know there are attorneys out there, their business model is literally like litigate more things to file as much as you can file, make it as complex as possible, because the billable hour, that's how you're going to make more money. But, even as an attorney though, that's not, I know so many miserable family law attorneys.
Completely. Yes. Well, and I don't understand it from, I mean, I have big, strong opinions about this. Like, we as attorneys, we owe it not only to ourselves, but our teams and then our clients to be helping them to get to the other side of this constructively rather
Yes.
than encouraging. It kills me when I see an attorney encourage their client to write these absolutely wildly histrionic declarations. And I'm like, do you really want this in the court record? Do you really want one day a child to go and read this? Like, is this what we're it? I'm like, no, can we please try to think about the impact on our co-parenting relationship? Because right now is such a tiny blip in your co-parenting life.
Yes. Yes. That's my whole, I harp on it over and over and over again with my clients, because it's so easy to just get myopic and lose that perspective, because you're in this for a lot of people. So I've been through a lot of hard times. I lost my brother. I've been in jail. I mean, but for a lot of people, my divorce is probably like, down on the list of most traumatic experiences. But for a lot of my clients, it is the most traumatic thing they've gone through. And rightly so, they say behind death, jail, comes divorce for most stressful events for an adult. And it's easy to just lose perspective and just feel like this is going to be like this forever. So I feel like my role, besides leading someone compassionately through the legal system, but is really to provide some perspective from my own experience, and so I'm very open with all of most of them. I would say there's some clients just probably not really interested in a lot of that. But most of my clients, that's probably the reason they're attracted to my office, is because I'm a little bit different. I'm not your average divorce lawyer. And, I'm not like the pit bull and the shark and, all that stuff. I was talking to another lawyer who said that, no, she says she likes to think of herself as a barracuda.
Yeah.
So she comes in, she doesn't make a lot of fuss, and then she attacks it, she leaves really quick. You want that precision. You want to know when to fight, know when to go in for what you need, and then let the rest go. And so most of my clients, we align that way. And I try to do with my social media, in my consults, really try to make sure that we're aligned there. It doesn't always work. Some of the best intended couples end up just at war, and it just, sometimes it just happens and you're just in that. But for the most part, I love collaborative law, and I don't know.
I do too.
Washington. Well, in Florida, you have to have a special license.
Oh, you don't here, but you have to have the certain training. We have a statute and there's training involved. I love collaborative law.
Certificate. It might be a certificate, not a license, but the problem is, it's like average cost is $15,000 per person. So not even per couple, which for a high asset couple, way cheaper than litigation, 100%. But for me though, being a newer law firm, I'm not necessarily attracting, the $1 million assets and stuff. But for your regular standard couple, upper middle class,
a lot of process.
That's a lot of money. And so what I tell people is, like, I bring a collaborative spirit to my cases. Maybe it's collaborative light. I first thing I do in every case is call the OC, the opposing counsel, immediately. I'm still trying to get to know everybody around the community. You know how family law communities are pretty small. Like, just start off on the, in the beginning, try to build. It doesn't always work.
Right.
It doesn't always happen, but you just try to plant seeds. And I believe like every little bit will add up somewhere.
Absolutely. Well, and I have to tell you, as a person who, like you, I came to Seattle, I was totally new. I didn't know anybody. Like, here I am in Seattle, moved here and, started a law firm. I definitely am a firm believer in getting to know your opposing counsel. And even those people who it doesn't go well at first, or they're super contentious. I mean, being a good Southern girl, I'm all about fried chicken. And I was like, you cannot get upset over a fried chicken lunch. So like, I would invite people to lunch and, it was like, we are going to find some common ground here, because I found that if I could find common ground with that opposing attorney, it made all the difference in the world, even if that opposing attorney is a pit bull, like on steroids, you know?
Right, which there are some for sure.
Oh my gosh, there are some. And it's, I mean, now it's kind of fun to me in the sense of, obviously I've worked a lot as a guardian ad litem and parenting evaluator. So, you get to kind of come in and see how the attorneys work, on
Yes.
both sides.
Oh,
And
that's true.
some of those pit bull attorneys, I mean, one, I kind of love to refer certain cases to them, certain cases that come in our office. I'm like, oh no, I am not your girl, but I know that you're your girl.
I do that too. I
Yeah.
turn cases down for sure.
Oh, yeah, I think that that is so important when you talk about your alignment. Well, you mentioned before we got on, that you've worked with Melissa at Velocity.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I think a lot of small firm and newer owners don't know about the benefits of coaching. And I mean, I am a huge Melissa Shanahan fan. Like, Melissa is amazing.
She is truly like, I mean, her talent for coaching is just, and I did some life coaching. I've done a little dabble. I even tried to do a little life coaching myself when I was home on maternity leave. I kind of tried everything. She's phenomenal. And I doubled my revenue working with her.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's
she's
amazing.
insane. It's and the best part of working with her over at Velocity Work is the other attorneys that I've met.
Right.
That we have this mastery group is what she calls it. And we've actually, a group of us have become very close friends, and we actually meet on our own every week and do our Monday mapping and our planning for the next week together on Zoom. And we're going to all get together in the fall to do like an in-person retreat together. And and as a law firm owner, especially virtual space, or I'm not a solo anymore, but it's isolating. I came up in the public defender's office, I had 30 attorneys in that building that I could go at any point in time and ask them a question. When it's just you or you're the boss, it's like, and what's nice about Velocity Work is we're all spread out over the country. So there's no competition for business.
Yeah.
These are the most generous human beings. And it's just really provided me with a community. And then Melissa, though, she's kind of like, no nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
She believes in self-development. She's very big on that, but she's also very drills down on numbers. And so, as you probably can tell, I'm a very high emotional IQ type of person. That's my strength, maybe not so much numbers and metrics and things like that. So she's really made me, though, good at that. So to be a good business owner, though, I have to know my numbers.
Absolutely.
And we do quarterly planning, and we measure our numbers every month. And so I think she's been a huge part, her, and then my mentor, Nancy Brodsky. And now she runs a coaching program as well. It's for mentoring other female family law attorneys. I don't think it has to be female. It just happens to all be, but it's called The Secret to Your Success. And she and her partner of her law firm do coaching and so I go to her, though, more on state specific law. And then Melissa's more my business guru. So I'm a huge believer in coaching. So I do make an investment there. But it's made all the difference.
Oh, I mean, it's paid in spades when you double your revenue. I mean,
yeah. Which made me believe I could do it. And I know a lot of solo attorneys who, I will just be frank, they're probably a better attorney than me, right? They're really, really, really smart, but they haven't broken out of the mentality that they have to do everything for themselves.
Right.
So the best thing I ever did was hire my team. Now, my business model's all contract right now. We're all virtual. Eventually I do want to get to the point where they're my employees, because I believe, like you do, very, very strongly in benefits and supporting them. But at this point in time where we're at in our growth, it's all contract. But I have a paralegal who came in with 20 years of experience.
Wow.
God
So
is good. Oh, she revolutionized, and I went through some, bumpy roads
oh
with
yeah,
her, and she like changed my entire life. But here's the thing, I've attracted good talent because I'm fully virtual and I'm family first. So, and I know that that aligns with you. And that's one of the things. So one of the things I aspire for you is we have the same kind of mentality with family law, but also the way that you treat your team, the way you value your, the values your law firm has, like that is absolutely 100% what I've always sort of envisioned wanting to create. I want my law firm to empower my team.
totally. Yes.
And so if that's something that I just believe in, I've been able to attract really, I mean, I have associate attorneys who work on cases with me and they're great, but because I let them work from home,
Right.
I let them set their own schedules as long as they're available. I tell them, I want you picking your kid up from the bus if that's what's important to you. I want you taking time off to go to do things with your children, as long as my assistant, my admin, her little baby girl has a little desk next to hers at the house and they work the same time. I love it. I want that. This is my home office. Like I said earlier, we have a space where we meet with clients when we need to. We'll be down to tomorrow all day mediation. I have a client wants to be in person, so we'll be together. But my kids, they're my number one, and I want to lock eyes with those guys when they come home from school.
Completely.
And so, but I want that for my team as well. So I feel like paying it forward, and paying them well.
Yes.
It's like,
oh, it's huge. I mean, I just think the team part of this whole thing, I mean, it inspires me. It keeps me awake at night. It brings me to tears at times when I'm dealing with problems. Like the team part of all this is by far for me, like the hugest investment of everything, like I just feel like it's just constant. I mean, and it is absolutely my greatest joy every day. And also my greatest sorrow some days, you know what I mean? Like,
it's hard. That's been what I've been dealing with this year as we've gotten a bigger team. Because for a while, it was just me and Brainy and we were cooking, and now we get bigger and bigger and there's new challenges.
There are.
And we lost a team member. She left, she got a better opportunity and, and it was devastating. You just go and then, her replacement is wonderful, and but it's a little of a roller coaster.
I think the people part are absolutely a roller coaster, but it has been, I mean, for me at least, like I thought raising these 6 kids and launching kids into the world was hard. Literally, it is nothing compared to what it is.
How big is your team now?
This team. Right now, I think we're around 36-ish.
My word.
And it is just, but it is this, like you mentioned, having a team member leave and that just being kind of devastating. But it's so interesting because like at first for me, it was devastating when somebody left. Now I have this whole new perspective of I love when people leave and go to a better opportunity, or they go to something where they're really aligned with what they're doing. We've had people leave to go on to graduate school or go to back to college or whatever it is. Or some people just leave and maybe they don't want to do leadership and they were in leadership here and they want to just do the legal work. And so they're at a firm where they're only doing legal work. And it's like every time somebody leaves and then every time somebody comes, I feel like we get more and more and more aligned. Like we are getting better and better and better at it. And I mean, obviously all the past people errors, like if I hired somebody that was a bad fit, they're so all on me.
Yeah.
And that has been powerful. That whole, I don't know if you've read, there's a book, I think it's called Extreme Ownership. It's by Jocko, I forget his last name, Willem.
Making me think of that Radical Candor book that you
well, it's a little different, but I love Radical Candor. But Extreme Ownership is literally written by this guy who was a Navy SEAL. And it's all about truly like, there's no such thing as a bad team. There's a bad leader. And I
Right.
mean, his book discusses this in over and over, chapter by chapter, and they show you how it worked in Iraq with their teams, and then they show you how it carries over into business. It is so powerful to truly embrace that extreme ownership mentality and realize like every darn problem goes right back to my doorstep. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Whereas every success, I need to look out the window and I see my team succeeding. And really embracing that has been so powerful.
Wow. No, and I was raised that way because my mom ran a tight ship at that clerk's office. I think some of the judges are like afraid of her because she was very like, but she was always like, you own it. So when I went in and let's say my legal secretary hadn't done what she was, but I took ownership for that with the
Yep.
judge.
Totally.
I did it. I carried that into my law firm.
Yes.
So the buck stops with me. But it's just so funny you're saying all this because we've had some challenges and guess who made the decisions?
Right.
And the radical candor part of it, I really have to work on that because I am a people pleaser.
Totally.
Big surprise, And so, being able to effectively communicate, but in a compassionate way.
Yes.
It's
so
on my list for this year to really develop that as a leader. Because even when I was at the public defender's office, at one point in time, I was running one of the satellite offices for a small county, which meant I did it all. But in the office, we were with another county. So there was 2 counties in one office. And like every morning, all the legal secretaries would like hang out in my office and we would do like a book club. And I was always motivational speeches and stuff. And I used to love, because we would get tons of interns from the law school at Florida because we were in Gainesville.
Right.
And I always loved working with the interns. So I do have a call to leadership.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I really do want to develop those skills.
I think that is such important time spent, money spent. Developing leadership is, I think, really one of the highest things you can do right now, exactly where you are with that team of 6, because it will keep growing. And as you develop that leadership, it is going to revolutionize how that growth occurs, bumpy or not bumpy, or less bumpy.
That would be nice because sometimes it's a little okay. But, the thing with me is the resiliency piece has come into play with this because there have been moments. This has not been easy. And I picked a really challenging area of the law.
Completely.
And so, yeah. So, I mean, to just really have only had the experience of my own case, really. I mean, and of course, you have a little overlap when you're involved with the state for as long as I was, but this sense of just get up every day, just like I stay sober every day. It's just every day. I'm back at my desk. Here we go again. We're going to get through today. And then, and just that's what carries you forward to your success is just not quitting.
Oh,
when it gets tough. Just
true.
Keep going and letting go of the need to be perfect and do everything perfect and be seen perfect. So everybody gives me a lot of compliments on my social media because I do some videos. I do 2 videos a week and I feel like they're a hot mess. I just get on there and talk. I don't have a script. I'm just but people resonate with it's just me, or maybe some people think they are better than they are. I don't know. But you just have to you have to let go of needing to be perfect. I think a lot of attorneys shy away from that opportunity to put themselves out there.
Oh, I mean, I did for years. I mean, I would not get on.
I love videos because you're endearing, your candor.
I just hated being on a video.
Well, nobody likes it.
I was terrified of video. And then finally, I mean, my team really was like, Elise, you're going to have to get over this. You just are going to have to do it. I really want to encourage you. There is another book I think you would love. You and I are so similar in that just leading with heart kind of thing. And that is the name of the book, Leading with Heart. I think it's written by some buddy. His first name is John, and his last name, I think, starts with a B. I have a memory of that, but I'd have to go look it up. But it is such a good read, because I think there's so much out there on leadership with that whole command and control leadership. And it's like, neither of us are going to be command and control leaders. Like, that is not what's going to work. And it's interesting, I think, in developing this new law firm culture. I mean, virtual, where you're focused on your family and your team's family. That's not normal. Like, that is abnormal law firm culture. So all the advice that comes in, a lot of it is old stuff, and it's how other law firms are run. And so that has been, for me at least, a big struggle, is realizing that almost all the advice out there is going to go contrary to how I think it should go.
Right.
I mean, I'm out here in the world trying to figure out, how do I get my whole team to 32 hours a week? I'm like, who came up with 40 hours anyway? I have no idea who came up with that and why it's a thing. But it's stupid. For full-time moms, 40 hours working is hard to also do all your other mom stuff.
Yeah.
And so I am like, I mean, my poor leadership team, because I'm like, well, why can't we do this in 32 hours? Like, where is that rule?
Make it work.
I mean, I'm like, let's just figure it out. Like, I'm over this 40-hour thing, because I personally like 32 hours better myself. And my kids are grown and gone.
Yeah, we quit it. We try to keep Friday as light as possible and wrap things up Friday morning. And then I tell them all, like, I don't expect you to be working Friday afternoon. If you want to,
right,
feel free. But I don't want them. I do want them to know it's different here.
Yeah.
I like pride myself on that. And so far, it really does seem to like develop like this loyalty, because I think they'd have to tell you, but I think most of my team feels appreciated and they feel valued, and I pay them well. And so that was the other thing. Like, I don't want to get into specific numbers, but I've had conversations with other attorneys. They're like, that's how much you're paying your paralegal. I'm like, yeah. And I would pay her more, I mean, she's worth her weight in gold. Like, I don't get the mentality.
Oh, don't even get me started on coaches and you should pay, a fifth of what they bring in. I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah,
like, that's so exploitive. I just think it's awful.
How do you get loyalty? And like, because like, I feel like Brandy's going to catch a bullet for me one day, you know what I mean? Not really, but she would do anything for me and I would do anything for her. So, that's the kind of team that you have to have, and things. I just went on a girls' trip I took off Wednesday and I came back yesterday. Oh my gosh. Charleston, South Carolina. It was fabulous.
I'm going in a few weeks. You're going to have to give me.
Oh, I'm going to give you all the recommendations. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Elise, you're going to love it.
I'm so excited.
I just, for some reason, have never been. Like, I'm a huge fan of Savannah and New Orleans, and I love that vibe. But I never made it over there. So it's amazing. But to be able to leave.
Right.
And honestly, I think it probably ran better without me there. And I am totally okay to admit that that's the truth.
Yeah.
But to finally be able to do that, and I'm still making money while I'm gone, which is like the other part of like when you're a solo, like everything's on you. So like that was the big thing with Melissa Shanahan. I should have said, she really got me to see delegation was the key. Getting a team, delegating. Like it's hard to give up control.
It is.
But once you start, it's like drugs. You're like, yeah, this is awesome.
I was going to say that can be the addiction. That's good, is the delegation addiction.
Do you mind me asking, do you still take on any casework? Or are you just managing the business now?
I mostly just manage the business. Every so often, I mean, we've had a massive issue with capacity. Like probably over the last year, we'll hit a capacity ceiling where my team will be like, I can't take any more cases. And it kind of pains me how many cases we refer out to our competitors. Like I'll just be referring out. And so every so often I'll be like, okay, I'll take on a few cases, because I know that, you can see cases that are closing. So I'm like, I'll take on a few and then be able to pass them off, for a bit. And sometimes people will come in very specifically, like, they don't want to go to court. They truly are in these like high conflict co-parenting type things. And they're like, Elise, I just need some education. Like, cause I write emails that like send my spouse to the moon. And I don't mean to do that. And they're like, if you could just like help me with some of that. And then I also do some parenting coordination work. And so, where I am actually hired, in that post dissolution to try to help people figure out, same thing, that education piece. I mean, my biggest goal is to help people, like, can we please tone down the conflict and let's figure out how can we actually move forward, because you people are destroying your children's psychological well-being. Like,
100%. That's why I tell them all the time, it's not the divorce that hurts them, it's the level of conflict present, whether you're married or divorced.
Exactly.
Some marriages are a war zone.
Exactly.
And that's not good either,
No.
so, but that, I think for me, I'm actually going to be doing mediation training this summer. I'm going to try my hand at being a mediator. I don't know. I feel like I have the right, but I know that's a whole different skill set. So the way I look at it, if I end up mediating and building that into my practice, great, or it'll just make me better for my clients' mediation, because almost all of my cases settle. Like I'm really good at getting my clients to a deal, and I want to get better and better and better at my skills on that. So,
totally.
But did you do mediation?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, no, I mean, I've done the mediation training, but I've done mediation in the sense of like, obviously in my work as a guardian ad litem, a lot of times I'm the one having to go back and forth and deal with, the parents. But no, I've never worked as a mediator. I've just, it's something I've kind of stayed away from. I've thought about it. I worry about my ability to manage it from the finances part and being able to really dig in and deal with all that. Like, that's not stuff I love, where I'm going to be fighting about, restricted stock units and like all of those things. And
that's so true. When you get into that level, it's like, whoa, it's a lot. That's
it's definitely from a parenting plan. I mean, I could mediate parenting plans, all day long. And but the other stuff is not stuff that I'm as thrilled with, from a mediation standpoint. And so, but I think for you, the mediation training is going to be wildly helpful.
Right. That's kind of, and just, I know like there's a lot for dealing with high conflict personalities and, being more effective communication, because you always end up, no matter how good you are at screening people, you just end up with high conflict clients, and you got to learn how to deal with them in a more appropriate way than losing your, cool, or not that I would, but even just so it's more enjoyable for me, because that part of it I don't enjoy.
Exactly. Well, and I don't know if you've looked into any of the parenting coordination courses.
Yeah, I might have to.
I would really think about that. And there's a lady there in Florida. I think her name is Deborah Carr, maybe. I can look it up and give you her name. She runs a lot of parenting coordination classes out of Florida. And then there's also a lady in Virginia who does really good work. But both of those courses would benefit you so much in your practice, just helping you teach. How do you teach that de-conflict and that de-escalation, and how do you help people do that? And so that, I think, is a really strong skill set, especially for somebody like you who is so emotionally intelligent. Like, you would find it, I think, pretty fulfilling, because you can actually really watch people develop these skills. I mean, I had somebody this weekend send out an email that was like super like constructive and like, let's resolve this. Here's my proposal. And I was like, whoa, where did this come from? I was like, look at you go now. Whereas before it just would have been war. You know what I mean?
And that's so rewarding. Yeah. I do end up with some consulting, like you were talking about. I have cases where they don't want to go back to litigation, but she wants to change the agreement. So she doesn't know I'm involved, but I'm over here just giving her advice, talking about things, giving her ideas, and she's paying me for my time. And I love it. I love working with people on that, helping them see things from a different perspective. But, I don't love litigation. I really think that we need to change the way family law is handled. And I know a lot of people make a lot of money, but there should just be a way that you can opt in or opt out.
Oh, I mean, I just think litigation is, I mean, it is.
30 grand as a couple to do it, because that's the collaborative option, which is just too much for a lot of couples, and it really closes the door for that opportunity for them. So then what, and I do a lot of attorney settlement, where I try to just settle the case without, and then file everything after we have a settlement. In fact, we have probably half of our cases, because I attract, that's who I attract. You're not coming to me if what you want to do is go for blood. And I'm very open about that. Like, I don't pretend to be, but that doesn't mean we aren't aggressive when we need to be. Doesn't mean we can't be strong where it's warranted. There are times, like, for instance, I have a terrible, terrible parental alienation case going on. And my client's the father, and the mother has kept the kids from him, and we have to litigate it.
Right.
But because I'm not fighting every little case like that, I have saved up all of that for his case. You know what I mean?
I do.
And I can use it and he's in the program. He has 2.5 years of sobriety, and he's those are the cases. Like, I want to fight for people to have another chance, like I did.
Absolutely.
Because my ex-husband could have tried to use it against me, and we didn't. We never did that with each other.
Right. Well, and the kids deserve that. They deserve their healthy dad. Do you know what I mean? Like,
oh, absolutely.
It is. And the thought that parents can't make mistakes and then improve, I mean, that's one of the areas as a guardian ad litem, when I look at a lot of, I get hired as an expert to review other guardian ad litem reports. Wow. And I feel like a lot of people will look at a past mistake, and it's almost like a gotcha. Like, they're like, oh, look at this person, they did something bad. And I'm like, who of us has not made a massive mistake? Like, I don't know. I mean, all of us have, it seems to me. Yeah. And if every single one of us who has made a mistake got our children, like, taken away or whatever, it's like, come on. Absolutely, children need to be safe. Don't get me wrong. They should not be driven, in drunk cars. And do you know what I mean? There's absolute safety that must happen. But I mean, you look at CPS manages to give people visitation, even when.
That's what's so crazy with parental alienation is these kids do not want to see their dad, right? To me, that's the first sign, because even kids, because I've done enough around in Florida, it's called Department of Children and Families, DCF. Right. I've seen foster kids that were horribly abused, but still want to be reunited with their family.
Completely.
So when you've got kids coming from a very well-to-do or normal upper middle class, and they just think dad is the demon, that's coming from mom. It's not coming from their experience. Not every time, but definitely in this case. And that's why I keep harping on with my judge. Something's not right here. There's been no abuse, and these kids do not want to see their father, and kids want their father. So what's happening, in the background here, but it's so hard to prove.
It is.
And it's so expensive to prove. And so a parental alienation eval down here starts at $12,000. And what are we doing?
Right.
And it's not serving these two young girls, I'll tell you that. And they're going to grow up with a lot of problems. I don't know. I tell my clients, though, the family law system is not designed to solve problems.
No, not at all.
It makes them worse. So the more you can take your case out of that system and make your own rules and make your own decisions, you're winning.
Definitely. Oh, I mean, it is the system is so flawed. I mean, radically disrupting how family law is practiced is, kind of like my secret life goal. But it is, what a hard system to really turn on its head. I think because so many lawyers, benefit from the nonsense of.
They do. Do you guys have like the end of court? Is that everywhere? I'm such a Florida girl. So I go to the end of court.
I don't know if we have it here in Washington. I don't know.
Okay. It's like, a group of judges and lawyers, they get together, and law students. And my group, we had to present on collaborative law. And I was floored by how many in my group don't like collaborative law. They collaborative family law. They were like, oh, it's such crap. It's like, and I'm like thinking it's the greatest idea ever. I just wish it was cheaper.
Right.
And no, they don't like it. They don't trust it. They've made their money this way and they don't like, the lack of, being able to fight. It's so hard for lawyers to like wrap their head around it, but I think it's the way of the future. I think we've got to make it more accessible. So I don't know how you do that, but I want to be a part of making that happen down here. And and that's the thing, like I do try to be a little bit of a different voice. I think you get some pushback, you get snickers from people. Oh, okay, whatever. Because family law will.
We know you can do Snickers. You're totally fine. Like, bring it on.
Exactly. And I don't pretend to be anybody that I'm not. So, and I do think that, that people resonate with me on that. So they know, like, working with me, it's going to be the real deal. No, I'm not, like full of shit lawyers. We're all tired of that. Just
tired of it.
Yeah. Like, why? This is why they hate us, just be a nice person.
Well, and I think it ties back to the substance abuse thing too, though. Don't you think lawyers have this insane, like, where they try to be like perfect and they put all this
substance abuse that's going on. It's prolific. Like the numbers don't lie. I don't know exactly what they are. And that is another thing I really am hoping as I am able to step away from less casework, and do more speaking, especially to law schools with the kids coming out, because I was only 3 years into my practice when I got my DUI, and it was devastating. I mean, I had to do the whole bar inquiry. It was humiliating, all of that stuff. But I was going through a divorce. I was 29 years old. I was young, it's just tough. And these kids, they don't even know what they're getting themselves into. None of it. And, I feel like lawyers, we have issues. Most of us go to law school either to make a difference or get approval or both.
Right. Exactly.
Which means we got lots of issues that could be ripe for self-medicating, because that doesn't come from anywhere, that comes from having lived through something. And the reason we're able to be resilient and get through something as tough as law school and bar exams and billable hour criteria that, new associates have to meet. It is so hard.
It is.
Layer in some pissed off clients in family law, and you got a recipe. In fact, I will tell you this. I will say this should be the radical candor. This experience of opening my law practice has challenged my sobriety the most. I have been sober for 13 years, but I have had to step up my self-care since I opened my practice, because when you work for the government, I don't know, I hate to say that, there's just not the same pressure, because it's like, I get paid what I get paid, and then whether I do 50 cases or 5, and there's also a level, I think, as a public defender, you're kind of like, they made these bad choices. I'm not really responsible for what happens, But when you're a private lawyer and, you have a team depending on you for their livelihoods, you need to attract clients, you've got to work, they're contentious, the clients are upset, is the level of stress. And I take it on I care about my clients and my team, and I care about my clients' kids. And, and it's just, oh my gosh. So I had to, in a new way, like really dial into my own self-care. I would just, I just could see myself like, I could just see myself going down the wrong road.
So
I got back with my therapist that I had worked with years ago when I first sobered up. I meet with her every other week. I bring in the troops. Like, I don't pretend like I've, got it all going on, and, working out and taking care of my nutrition and going on this girls trip I just went on, and, really also dialing into my marriage, because nothing makes you appreciate your marriage like watching other divorces all day.
Oh, completely.
Oh my gosh, it was like the best thing for us. Like every day I'm like, wow, I love you so much. And of course, my first marriage gave me a lot of education on that too. But, I don't know. This is hard. this is the most challenging thing. I think it's been far and away more challenging than getting sober and some of the other things I've had to face. Running my own law firm has been hard.
It's
Oh,
not
really?
for the faint of heart at all.
Oh man, no, it isn't. And that's just been, yeah, but it's rewarding.
It is.
I
It
know,
is.
like, we'll have been open 3 years in August. We're so new, and we're just growing, and it's working, and people are, and so I do feel like, okay, even on the hardest days, like, okay, you're doing this, and it's going to get better, and you're home with your kids.
Right. Huge. Well, I'm just so glad. I'm so glad you're working with Melissa and found such a core group of other owners. That is such an important thing, to not be alone in this journey, because
100%.
it is.
And they all know my story. I'm really open with
Right.
it to everybody. So it's like, even for them, like, because lawyers out there struggling.
Totally. Big time. Oh, it kind of cracks me up sometimes when people, they act like, you're like, if you have success, and I put that in air quotes, that somehow you're sitting around like doing nothing and life is good. And it's just like, are we kidding?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was like,
More problems. It's just level challenges.
exactly.
And then, you have to get yourself to that point. And I think that's what's been happening for me this particular year. I don't know what, it's just been really, really challenging. It's just forced me to just grow and pull myself up even more.
I think having a team is a whole new level of challenge, and just what you're dealing with. There's just so much.
Yes.
I mean, there's so much. And I'm just so glad you're working with Melissa, because so many law firm owners at your stage, they're like, oh, I shouldn't hire a coach. And I'm like, oh, yes, you should. It's like,
I did it way back when. I've been with her for like 2 years. I mean,
That's
almost right at the
really
beginning. Like, I think I was only open for like 6 months, and I don't even think I told her that. I just was like, oh yeah. But I knew, like, I resonated with her so much on her podcast. Like I said, I heard her talk to you, and I was like, who's this Elise lady? Because like, you're everything I had in my mind. And so honestly, like, I have followed you. I've tried to emulate, your values. Like, you are a leading voice for those of us in this space. And I so appreciate what you're doing.
well,
Like, I do.
appreciate that. I really do. And I'm so excited for you and watching your success. And I'm just thrilled. And the more people we can send to Melissa, the better, because I just think Melissa
Join
is
us. Velocity Work is the best.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of them are in Maximum Lawyer too.
Oh, yeah.
Customers, and they love Maximum Lawyer.
Yeah.
And there's something out there for everybody, but Melissa it's such a great community. You can't beat it. And her skills are, I don't know, she is just really gifted at what she does. And it's so inspiring to be around somebody who's in their zone of greatness and watching them. And she's like that. She shows up, she's present. It's not fluff. She's real. Like, it's the real deal. And it's required me to level up. And and I like that. I like that challenge in it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I just cannot thank you enough for joining me today. And I hope you have an amazing week.
I too. Back at work, where we could hit the ground running with our normal Monday morning team meeting, and like, oh, I get to go talk to Elise today. I'm so excited.
Well, I'm going to send you. Well, definitely. And I'm going to send you some of that information, and I'm going to look for your information on Charleston, because I'm totally going.
I'm going to give you some great recommendations.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Day.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.